Greetings and welcome to this introductory SolidWorks video. In this video, we will focus on sketching using this saw handle as a model. Well, if you have a printout of the drawing for this saw handle, you'll see that it does have a number of dimensions, but those dimensions are not all that's necessary to actually specify the saw handle. So here is a sketch that defines the basic shapes of the saw handle here. And you can see that we have a number of dimensions, but also these little green things. These are the relations that do, in fact, a much better job of helping us determine what is actually intended by the designer. So let's dive in and show you a whole lot about doing a good job of sketching, especially your first feature. So we're going to go here to New, and this pops up, and we'll have a new part. Okay, it might take a couple seconds. Now what you might want to do first is go down here and choose inch pound second for this particular model because it's in inches. But for the moment, I'm just going to keep it on millimeters, gram seconds to show you what happens when you forget. So some places will tell you to start with features and go to extruded boss base, which will get you into sketch mode. I prefer to go just to sketch mode, especially if you're a beginner, so that you can make mistakes without wondering what happened. So we're going to go to sketch, click on sketch within sketch mode because there's dimensioning mode. There's also something called 3D sketch, which we're not going to cover. So we're going to go to sketch and go to the front plane. This makes the most sense for this kind of part. Now, the first time you do this with a model, it will automatically change its orientation so that you are facing the front plane. So if I roll over this or even click on it, it'll show you where the front plane is. It'll show you where the top plane is and where the right plane is. Now, once you get a dimension in there, it'll know the scale of things, but you can still move the orientation of your view around. I'm clicking on the middle button, usually often the roller, so just push down on the roller on your mouse. And now you can see the top plane and the right plane a little bit better. So you'll see that. And this little spot right here is called the origin right here. And it is the point at which these three planes intersect. And that's going to be very important. The computer needs to know everything with respect to the origin, or else it won't know where it is. Now I can go back to where I was in a couple of different ways. I can click this button to the previous view. And so now, as you can see, there's the front plane, the top plane, right plane. Then I can hit it again, and it will go straight to that front right plane. So it's looking straight at the front plane there. Or I can go to this button, which will give me a variety of options. I can look at it from some kind of funky angle like this, or up top here, or on one side or the other, or even the bottom, the back, or the left side. That's all very well and good. Now, if you click on this, this will get you back to a normal direction to whatever sketch you were on. So I'm going to click on that, and of course, it brings us back to viewing the front plane straight on. I do believe it rotated us 180 degrees, but that's okay. So if I go do that, then you'll see the front plane, and this shows the origin as X to the right, Y above, and Z coming straight out. I do this, look down here at our coordinate system. You can see that this changes as I'm holding the middle button down. And if I just click on any one of these, it will point straight at me. So if I click on that, the X points at me, then the Y is pointing at me. Here I've got the Z pointing at me, and we're back to where we started. So enough of showing you that for the moment. We are going to go to the sketching. Now on the drawing that you are to sketch with, it's very important. This next step is actually very, very important. We need to organize everything around the origin. And the origin should be the most important point, or the most obvious central point of your sketch. If you have a lot of symmetry, then you want to make it go around this origin, because it'll make things that much easier, and it makes sense. This is the most important point. Symmetry indicates some form of important axis. So if you notice on the drawing, we have two circles that are the rivet holes, and they are immediately above and below each other. And then there's some symmetry within that aspect of the handle. So before I make any physical lines, I'm going to go up here and notice how I can click on that little triangle points down. I'm going to get to center line. Like that. And as I sketch, and I have a lot of points running around here, if I come close to a point like this, notice how there's a little dashed line that comes out. That's the computer saying, hey, did you want to start sketching to the right, to the left, above, or directly below this particular point? If so, there's the spot for you. And notice right next to it, suddenly a little vertical line appears. And look, there's a horizontal line. In other words, this point is directly horizontal to this point. So I'm going to make a center line, and notice how it just comes up for construction. So you can call it construction lines as well. I'm going to go from the middle of one circle to the middle of the other. Notice how I don't really care about the actual length. That makes no difference. But as you swing around, you can see that it's showing the length. In this case, it's 66.17 millimeters. So that's all very well and good, but we don't need to have any more lines coming off of here. So I'm going to hit the escape key, and I'm going to stop that. Now, if I want to go back and put another line in, like I do, go back up here and click on center line. And I'm going to wait out here till that little horizontal line shows up. And I'm going to click here. I'm going to click out over here. Again, I don't really care about the length. Right now it's 68.02 millimeters. And it's at 180 degrees. I wanted that. I wanted it to be horizontal. And notice the lower, just to the lower right of my cursor here, I've got two little icons in yellow. One of which shows that there's a point on a line. That's because the origin is going right on this line. So we're going to make that happen and hold it there. And also the line is going to be horizontal. So if I hit escape again, because I don't need to do that from that point. So if I hover over this green thing, it says that there's a point coincident with a line. Which line? It's line 1, this vertical one, and the point 1, which is the origin, which is exactly what we wanted. We wanted this line to go right through the origin. Now it always will. And this line is horizontal, and also it goes through the origin, and that's what we wanted. So if you'll notice, I can try to grab onto the click and hold, grab onto this line and try to drag it somewhere. It's not going off to the right or to the left, because it's stabilized on the origin. Now I can click the end and I can make it longer. I can make it longer or shorter, go further to the left. I can even bring it out over here, but it's still a line that goes through that origin point. So I've got that set up. Now let's just draw some of these elements. And I'm going to click on circle, and the default is to have a point and a radius. So I want a center point right here, and it'll make a radius out there. And it goes back to making another circle. So I'm just going to do that. And since I'm done making circles, I'm going to hit escape on my keyboard. And if you'll notice, these circles are defined as 2x. That means that there are two circles that have a 0.38 inch diameter. That's what that means. So I'm going to dimension here, and I'm getting 13.46 millimeters. That's not what I wanted at all. I want 0.38 inches. So I'm going to have to change my units. But just in case you had to enter in something that was in inches into something that's millimeters, you are in luck, because the computer can do all that calculation for you. It's pretty smart. So if I want to type in 0.38 inches and I don't know what the conversion factor is, all I have to do is right here in this area, type 0.38 IN, and it will do the conversion. So that's 9.65 millimeters. Well, I'm going to go down here now and change it to inch pound second. Oh no, what happened? What happened? Where did everything go? Well, what just happened is that you got out of sketch mode because you did this thing. That's fine. We can get back into modifying that sketch. What often happens is when someone starts with extruded boss base and then they go into sketch mode and then something like this happens, it boots you completely out of making features, and all you have left over is a sketch, and you wonder what happened. And then when you're done with the sketch, it still doesn't make your feature, and you wonder what happened. So we're just going to do the sketch first and make the feature later. Well, next we still have to get back into the sketch. Well, the most important thing you can do in terms of editing is learn this little trick. Right click on what you want to edit, and if it's a sketch, you go up to edit sketch. And now we are back in there. And notice how we're back at 0.38 inches. So you say, okay, I know what to do. I'm going to dimension this one. And you could do that, but then what happens when something gets changed? Okay, if something gets changed, and it often does in industry, you're going to have to change both of these values. Instead, I'm going to delete one, and then I'm going to show what I really intend. What I really intend is for these two circles to be the same size. I don't want one 0.38 and the other one 0.38. I want both of them to be the same size, which means I want them to be equal. So I can tell it to be equal to each other. What I'm going to do first, I'm going to click on this one, and then I'm going to hold the control key down. Now I'm holding the control key down on the keyboard, and I'm going to select the edge of the other one, not the center, the edge. Okay, so I selected the edges of both circles, and if you'll notice, this menu comes up. This is a real quick, nice menu that comes up. I like going over here because it actually gives the words. And we can make these things coradial. Coradial means that they have the same center and the same radius. So let's try that. Oh, it doesn't like that because we've already told it that they have two different centers. So making it coradial is not going to work. I'm going to use the undo button or Control Z, and it's going to go back to, okay, what did you want? I can make them tangent. Okay, I'll try to make them tangent. Okay, so now these two are tangent, and they always will stay that way. No matter how big they are, this point will always be tangent. But I didn't actually want that. I want them to be something different. I wanted them to be the same, didn't I? Okay, so I'm going to use Control Z this time. That's why you're not going to see a click. All right, let's see if they're concentric. Concentric simply means same center, but not necessarily same radius like coradial. Oh, same problem. We've already told it they're going to be at different points on this center line, so they've got to be having different centers. So that didn't work. So I'm going to use Control Z again. Finally, I'm going to skip equal because that's the right answer. And I'm going to go to fix. Fix is a cheating way of doing things. It just tells us, I just want it right there. Well, we want to tell it exactly what we really mean. We want those two things to be equal. Okay, so now I can close my dialog. It means I'm very happy with what I just did, and I don't need to change any more properties. And notice if I change this number now to say 1/2 an inch, both circles change at the same time. That's really what I intended. I wouldn't want to have different sized rivets or anything. Okay, I'm going to use the undo button again and change that back. Now, I know that's a lot to go through for just a couple of holes that I have. And notice how they are blue. When something is fully defined with respect to the origin, it turns black in this program. So these things are blue because we don't know exactly where they are with respect to the origin. See? It could be anywhere. If I can grab it and move it, that means it's not sure where it belongs. The center of that is confused. The center of this is confused. What we do want is that if you see that little CL symbol on the drawing, that means it's a center line. So this is a center line indicating some form of symmetry. If it looks symmetric around a center line, it is symmetric around the center line. So how do we make these two symmetric? Same kind of thing. I'm going to select the center this time. Hold the Control key down. I'm going to select the line of symmetry, and I'm going to select the other center. And notice I could either do fix or symmetric. Never do fix. Okay. And that still hasn't made these things blue. But what has it done? Well, when I move this one, oh, the other one moves. See, I fully intend for them to always be symmetric about that. So I'm going to capture that intention by putting these relations, these green things in. Okay. Now on the drawing, if you'll notice, it doesn't actually give the dimensions for the distance between the centers. That might be a better way of doing it, but in the drawing that I have, it doesn't. So what we're going to do now is we're going to do some very different kind of sketching than what we just did. Those circles, those were easy. We're going to use what's called the line. But it's not just going to be line, it's going to be a line arc combo. Now, remember how I was saying that if you are close to something, it might give you a suggestion that it's horizontal. I'm going to start there. I'm going to show you that. And I could do lines like this. Okay, and so it just lets you click on all sorts of lines. You may have done this in CAD programs before. But it has a neat little thing here where I start a line here. I'm going to go down. It's going to go down 90 degrees. Notice how it shows you the length and it shows you the direction 90 degrees and shows that little yellow potential relation? Well, it's going to end up showing you that it is a vertical line. So if I click here, see, little green vertical line symbol comes up. We can delete those if we want to, simply by selecting them and right-clicking and hitting the delete key or something. But right now it's exactly what I wanted, so I'm going to keep it. Now, if I keep going around like this and I keep making those lines, then all I'll have is a bunch of straight lines. If I come back to the point and then I come back out again, I can make a curve. Now I'm going to set this, instead of being super careful and putting it right at the center and stuff like that, I'm going to kind of put it out here to show you um, uh, that you don't have to be super duper careful all the time. And so now I click there, and then I'm going to make another line for the bottom of the handle. And notice how I didn't make it horizontal. I could have, but I'm just showing you that you don't have to be super careful, and we can clean it up later. Now I'm going to bring this out here, and I'm going to make a series of curves coming back here, and I'm going to try to keep them tangent as best I can. Okay, so now out here, again, the default is a straight line. I'm going to come back here, and it's going to be a curve. And come back here, and I'll make that curve. Out, back, out, back, and then I'm going to try to end up fairly, there it is, that straight up from that, from the center point. I'm going to go there, and that should give me a relatively horizontal line now, which is nice, and right above that center of the circle. And then I come out and back, and I'm going to make that final curve there. Okay, now when I've had students do this design, the biggest issue they have is not making things tangent. So I'm going to hit escape so I can work a little more easily. And notice how there's a tangent here, tangent. Everything on this whole outline should be tangent. Right here. This isn't. This isn't even horizontal. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to just click once on that line, not on the point, but on the line. Does make a difference. And I'm going to click on horizontal. Tell the computer I want that to be horizontal. And I'm going to click out and click here again. Then I'm going to hold the control key, click on that curve, and I'm going to make those two things tangent. So you have to select the line and the curve, not the point. It knows which point should be tangent. And click on that. And that point's tangent now, and that point's tangent, and oh, that one isn't. So got to check to make sure all of your points are tangent, but to make a point tangent, you have to select the two things that would be tangent to each other. There it is. Okay. Now, if you'll notice, there are a lot more blue lines. It has no idea where the stuff is with respect to this origin, but we'll get there. These two curves on the drawing, if you'll notice, are supposed to be concentric, have the same centers as these holes, so we can make it happen. Oh, what did I just do? What did I just do? Oh, I just zoomed in. Okay, now you can zoom in using this tool here. Okay, that's all very well and good. And there it is. Okay, that's great. I find it much easier to use the roller of your mouse. And so that's the good news, is that you can use the roller of your mouse to zoom in. You can use control roller to pan around. So if I click on the roller, hold it down, and I hold down the control key, that'll happen. If I hold the roller down like this, then I move the orientation. And of course, That's what I showed before. So there's a lot of things that make it really easy to work with on the mouse. The bad news is if you're having troubles with that, there are some mice that do not have that ability. So you'll have to buy yourself a half decent mouse to take advantage of those features. And I highly, highly recommend doing so. But most mice should be able to do this. Now, I'm going to zoom in this area, and this is the center for that arc, and this is the center for the circle. I want to bring them together. So again, I click on one, and I hold the control key down, and I click on the other, and I will want to merge them. Now I could make them horizontally aligned, so that they're just right in line with each other, but not necessarily on each other. Or I could make them vertically aligned so that one's right above the other. But instead, I want both. I want them to merge. And so now you'll see that the center of this is the same thing as the center of this. And I'm going to zoom out and zoom back into these. Click here, hold the control key, click there, and merge them. Alrighty. If you'll notice, we still have one and only one dimension here. You're probably wondering when we're going to get to more. Well, let's do that right now. And you're going to see how some of these elements will finally become black so that the computer knows exactly where everything is. Again, it still doesn't know where these things are. There we go. So it doesn't know where the circle is. It doesn't really know where that circle is, at least not yet. We can take this point. Still doesn't like it exactly. Oh, there we go. These things can move. There we go. So if you can do stuff like this, it doesn't really know where they are. And that can cause problems. So we need to fully define it. It's also as if you gave this design to a tool maker, and the tool maker needs to know where every little thing is supposed to be. You can't just say make it kind of like this. You need to specify it. The tool maker would need to know where to put the bit, how far to grind or mill or what have you. So you need to define it. Once it is defined like that, this will turn black, and it will be actually able to be constructed. So let's go to some dimensioning. And there are a variety of ways of dimensioning. Now, if you'll notice, I clicked on Smart Dimension, and I clicked on this. Now, if you just want that one line a certain size, you just have to click on the line, and this will come up. But what we really want is the distance from that line to this line. And we're going to set it at 6 inches. Whoa. Okay, so that looks really bad. And you're like, oh, man, what happened to it? Well, don't worry about it. We'll get there. Now, if you'll notice, this one's way up over here than this one. We need to go out of Smart Dimension mode, take those same lines, and we're going to make them symmetric about this center line. And also, to make these dimensions work right, make sure these radii are set apart from the other ones. So these are 0.63. Also, to make sure, we haven't specifically told the computer that both of these are 0.63. So I'm going to make sure it knows. I'm going to make them equal. Again, clicking on one, holding the control key down, clicking on the other, and then finding out that we can make them equal. Now notice that this part has turned black. So from here to here to here to here, even these construction lines, they've all turned black, which means that the computer knows where they are. Knows I'm trying to drag these, clicking and dragging, and it's not letting me. So that's good. Notice that the endpoints of this line are still blue. I can still move the endpoints, but I can't move the line itself. And that's okay for a construction line. So as long as those two blue points aren't changing the angle or the position of the line, that's fine. Now, obviously, we've got some work to do over here. So I'm going to try to make this look a little bit closer to what the drawing shows. So maybe it'll be a little bit easier to dimension. But it also shows you that you can drag the points around and see if you like a particular look better than another. So, but the thing is, this set of curves is actually dependent on the internal structure here, the hole for the hand. So I'm going to draw that inside here. It gives me suggestions, but I don't have to necessarily take them as being in line. But they might show up as actual relations, so you have to watch out for that. For example, this one came up with a relation that is right in line with this point. Well, I don't want that. That's not in the drawing at all. So I'm going to click on it, left click on that green relation, and I'm going to click on or tap the delete key on my keyboard, and it goes away. Now, what can we say about this? We have a number of dimensions we can work with, but also there's some symmetry. So I'm going to try to work on the relations first. Click here, click here, click here. Those three lines, the two solid lines should be symmetric about the center line. And so that's what it does. Now there's a dimension there from top line to bottom line of 4.5 inches. And then there's an offset from here to here. Uh-oh, it says 0.71 degrees. That must mean that one's at a slight angle to the other, and I can't put that 1.5 inch dimension in yet. So I'm going to hit escape, and then I realized, oh, I got to hit escape twice because I clicked on this line first. But I hit escape again to get out of dimensioning mode. I realized that when I drew this line, it did not show up with a vertical relation. I assumed it was, but it didn't guess it. Sometimes the computer doesn't quite get everything. So all I do is click on that line, click on vertical, and I'm done. Now, if you're doing this along, maybe yours already did that, and you should be fine. But that's what happens if you don't have it perfectly vertical or parallel to the other line, then you'll get in trouble. So I prefer to, if possible, do it from line to line, because you will learn that maybe something is out of alignment that way. If you just do it to a point, you can get in trouble. Talk about that later. So I put that dimension in. I type in 1.5 here. And notice how this turns black and this turns black and this turns black. I have the dimensions, I've got the symmetry, and so it knows where everything is with respect to that origin. Also, this line right here is supposed to be 1.5 inches long. So notice how I just tapped on that particular line instead of, say, I could have dimensioned from this line to this point and had 1.5 inches there. That would have worked out well. This one messed up. Hit undo one too many times there. Okay. Another thing I could do, hit escape, delete this one, is I could also dimension from this point to this point. I will just dimension this line and I'll be good to go. Okay. Now, what would have happened if we didn't know specifically where a particular point was, or if it was horizontal or what have you? Nice thing about this smart dimensioning is that if I've got something angled like this, if I come off at that angle just right, it'll do the line. If I come off over here, it will do the horizontal. If I come up this way, it'll do the vertical. So you just have to play around with it a little bit to get what you want. Now, make this horizontal again. And what did we have? We have the 1.5 up here, and we have some lines out here that are center lines. Kind of interesting. Let's construct those. And if you wanted to construct a bunch of lines at a time, but they were separated, so if you'll notice when I do center line here, it wants to make another one from the last point. If instead I hit the enter button, then I go back to the last command I was doing. So I can hit escape, hit return, and then I make a new line. Okay, I'll delete these now. Don't need them. Okay. Now these two lines need to be made parallel because the dimension that comes off is actually making them parallel. Gives a distance dimension. So let's see if we can make those parallel. There we go. Now we can dimension them as 1 inch apart. Okay, and likewise we need to make this parallel to that. And we'll dimension it 1/2 inch off, bringing everything together. But then this line is supposed to be 15 degrees off of that line. Okay. And things are starting to look a lot better here. Okay, all we now have to deal with is all this blue stuff. Now again, if you see the 2x or 3x or 4x, that means that the designer implied that they should be the same dimension. So those two will be equal. These two should be equal. Okay, and I think all that's left now is to make them the right dimensions. That's supposed to be 3/4 of an inch. And this one, you can bring it in here a little bit. There we go. Sometimes you have to do that before you dimension it because it might make things kind of funny, but that's what they make the undo button for. And so that's 3.5 inches there. And notice now that the entire sketch is black, with the exception of those 2 points, which is okay. I like to move the dimensions out so they're more easily seen if someone needs to go and modify this. So this is the difficult part of the sketch and the model in general. The next video will show you what to do next. In fact, the next thing to do is to click on your exit sketch button and save the part best you can. But I'm just going to do a quick review here. In this video, showed you how to start focusing on the origin and how to use construction lines. The line command showed you how to use not just the line command, but the line arc combo. We focused a lot on relations, how to click something, hold the control key down, select something else, and then make relations, or sometimes it's the symmetry, sometimes it's the going through a point, what they call coincident, making something vertical, making something horizontal, making things parallel, making things tangent. And as you roll around, you can see that when you roll over the particular relation, it'll tell you what's tangent or equal. So when I roll on this one, you see not only this show up, but you'll see the other equal sign and the other element that is drawn. We talked about dimensioning and the different kinds of dimensions, whether it's a diameter or radius or length, how we can choose two lines, we can choose 2 points, we can choose a single line to do the dimensioning, but you have to be very careful that when you're picking out points, because those points may just be the points and not the lines that you're looking for. It might end up being horizontal or vertical, or it might be kind of at some kind of funky angle. Also mention a lot about design intent, making sure that what's intended by the designer is what's actually reflected here. Random numbers or fixing or whatever is very bad form, because it implies that you wanted something in a particular size when you really didn't care what size it is. Finally, we want to make sure that everything turned black, which meant that it was fully defined with respect to that origin. I hope this video helped, and there will be a second one showing how to complete this particular model. So I'm going to click on Exit Sketch, going to save it. And now it's saved. Anytime you see a little asterisk up at the top there, that means it hasn't been saved yet. So, see you in the next video.